What's up, guys? Welcome to the Peer Review Podcast. My name is Caleb Davis, and as promised, I'm back here covering the second half of NBA offseason moves. Today, I just kind of wanted to talk about the news broke yesterday that LeBron was deciding to move on from the Lakers. So that is a very, very surprising and interesting move to say nonetheless. And then you have the Lakers just offseason moves in general. I want to talk about how they pivoted from losing LeBron James and a bunch of other notable free agents. And then I'm going to close out with just a few interesting offseason moves that took place today. So just getting started, LeBron is leaving the Los Angeles Lakers. He came out and his camp announced that, they don't need to wait on him and basically he's going to weigh his options. And the two things that he really is factoring in this decision is happiness. And it sounds like happiness is a big part, the ability to win and compete. And financial security doesn't really sound like that is a constraint for him, which is exciting to say because that opens the door to a lot of different interesting and exciting team destinations. So I'm going to just talk through three teams today that have been, cited as the three teams that he's looking at. And then I'm also going to touch on those teams' off-season moves and kind of how I'd like to, which team I'd like to see LeBron the most. So the three teams I'm going to touch on really quickly are Miami, Cleveland, and Golden State. And as you all know, those have been the three teams reported. So starting with Miami, I think just being a Heat fan, I'm definitely biased here between these three teams. Definitely biased. And I'm going to save my opinion for the end, but I'm just throwing that out there and making sure that's understood. Like there is bias here. There's bias here. Starting with the Heat, though, they re-signed Andrew Wiggins on a deal that brings him back and allows them to have a little bit more financial flexibility in the future, which is exciting for them. They signed Tim Hardaway Jr., who was still a great, he averaged 13 last season. I think he shot 43% from three. I think he's going to be a great addition. He'll likely start at the two, I'm guessing, or maybe they. I'm blanking on his name. Polo Larson, maybe he starts, but I think Tim Hardaway Jr. I think you need that shooting out there. And then they're likely to get Duncan Robinson. It sounds like the Pistons are going to waive him, and that fit just makes sense. If he comes in, maybe he starts over Tim Hardaway Jr. Who knows? But as for Miami, I think LeBron going there and filling in, if he, let's say he goes there. If he goes to Miami, he's going to be the point guard. He's going to be the point guard for this season. And having Bam and Giannis as your two, backline front court defenders, and then you also have Andrew Wiggins as that lead perimeter defender, I think that takes a lot of the pressure off his play to be this defender just in general. If LeBron's playing point guard, he's not going to be guarding guard. So having Wiggins at the three allows for Wiggins to slot up and be your main point of attack defender. And then maybe you throw LeBron on that small forward. And then you still have, TSJ or Duncan, whoever fills in at the two. But the lineup makes sense, in my opinion. You have a lot of size. You'll probably be switching if you have a lineup out there with LeBron, Bam, Giannis, Andrew Wiggins. All those guys are similar sizes. And even if you don't, let's say you're running drop coverage, you're going to have great help at the rim. Bam or Giannis, you can't really go wrong there. Two all defensive caliber players. And just LeBron going back to Miami, the only issue, they retired Bill Russell's number 6 around the league. And then the Heat retired Jordan's number a long time back. So he'd have to pick a new number. And I don't know if that even factors in. I don't even know if he actually gives a damn, but interesting choice there. And then you have Cleveland, which, they're just coming off making Eastern Conference semifinals run and also an Eastern Conference finals run. And, Cleveland's his hometown. I think this would be the most, I'd say boring of the options because I feel going to Cleveland, similarly, you have two lead ball handlers in Harden and Donovan Mitchell. You have a better defense, I think, because one, I think Donovan Mitchell is more athletic. So if let's say he's Austin Reeves in this scenario, I think that's a leg up. Evan Mobley and Jared Allen are better defensively than LeBron and, DeAndre Ayton were. So, and it's home, but I just think the vibes in Cleveland are bad. I don't think, if you bring LeBron to the Cavs, I'd be okay with it if James Harden wasn't there. If you had a point guard who maybe could defend a little better, or I don't like the fit of them all three. This is my least favorite of the three options. And If he were to go back, though, they would be a very, very interesting team in the East. And I think James Harden would be able to carry through the regular season. Like, that's what he's good at. And you'd be able to preserve LeBron, preserve Donovan Mitchell. Not to say, like, he's the young guy he should be, but there's a path there. And then just moving on, finally, with Golden State. They just re-signed Anthony Melton today. They re-signed Kristaps Porzingis. They re-signed Al Horford. Draymond opt out to potentially re-sign on a shorter deal, a cheaper deal that'll help facilitate a move that could potentially bring in LeBron. And then you also have that noise of Anthony Davis in the back burner. Golden State is a very interesting option, especially if they are able to acquire Anthony Davis without, having to move off like Draymond, for example. I don't think the Anthony Davis deal sounds like it's likely. It sounds like the Wizards don't want to play ball. And if I was them, because I don't really, unless you're going to re-sign Anthony Davis for the max, which with their young core, I don't know. Maybe that's their prerogative. And again, that if that's the case, that is their prerogative. They don't have to move their guy. But it would be very interesting to see LeBron, AD, Steph, Draymond, D'Anthony Melton. I'm glad they're he's he'll be the point of attack defender next to Steph, which I really like. I think he's a really good player. And from a fun, and it'd be so cool to see LeBron and Curry play together. I like the Warriors fit. I really like LeBron fits seamlessly with Curry. They both, we saw it in the Olympic, Team USA. They would just be a great fit together. LeBron not having to, because he doesn't have, the bird to beat guys off dribble or the athleticism. But he does still have athleticism, but not that peak LeBron. You know what I mean. But he can play off ball and facilitate. That's still his greatest ability. And playing with Steph Curry, the greatest off-ball movement shoot, this match made in heaven. The only thing that scares you a bit is the age, and especially if you bring in a guy like AD, you bring in him, I think that's a championship contender, definitely. And I think you have old depth, like Al Horford and, Draymond, and Porzingis will probably have to get moved in that deal, I'm guessing. But you bring in depth, you have depth on that team. You have Guy Santos, you still have blanking the guy from Michigan. I'm blanking on his name right now. Yaxel. Yeah, you still have Yaxel. Good fit. But the one reason I'm against Golden State is because just the discourse, how people are gonna talk. It ruined. I just don't want to. I don't want to have to defend, argue against people saying, oh, even though LeBron's 42, he's still held to the upper echelon of standards. So him going to team up with Curry would, especially if they don't win, he'd get some backlash for. And maybe they don't give a damn. Maybe him and Curry don't care. But I definitely think LeBron would take a bigger hit than Curry in that because, LeBron's coming to him. I don't have a problem with it, for the record. But I started off by saying I'm biased. I want him to go to Miami. I think he has an easier shot at making a deeper playoff run in the East. I think Giannis is going to be hungry. I think Bam is going to be hungry. I think Eric Spoelstra is one of the best coaches in the league. I think they could use his, exactly what LeBron brings, that playmaking and just that size. Could you imagine having LeBron at the 1, Andrew Wiggins at the 3, Bam at the 5, and Giannis at the 4? Just picture that. That's every guy in that lineup is above 6'8". Crazy amount of athleticism and size, and just I think that team would be so fun to watch. That's what my fingers are crossed for. But we're gonna wait and see. Teams are gonna line up. You make your moves. Teams will make pitches. The Nuggets have been thrown out there. The Timberwolves said they reached out. I would love for him to go to Detroit. We need a power forward. He would fit right in, and he'd be a great addition. I think LeBron would fit on damn near every single team. The Thunder, he could go fill in, next to Chet, and that'd be size at the power forward spot. The Spurs need a power forward. You just look around the league. LeBron's skill set, and LeBron, he's just a very coveted player. Who would have thought Lakers let him walk? It's going to be a very interesting offseason, and I'm very excited to see where he goes. But moving past that, I'm going to touch a bit just on the Lakers offseason moves. I am so glad I no longer have to root for the Lakers. I was a fan in respect to LeBron, and now that he's moving on, I don't really have any, loyalty to the team. And I support JJ. I really like Austin Reeves, but after today's video, I don't really have any rooting interest in the Lakers. But They signed Walker Kessler to a ginormous. Let's see, Walker Kessler. I lost the details. But they signed Norman Walker Kessler to a pretty large deal. It's 4 years, 130 million. They also had to sign in, like it's a sign and trade with the Jazz. So they had to give the Jazz 2 unprotected first round picks and 2 pick swaps. So clear the deck of their assets. Finally got a big after like 6 years of different Lakers players requesting, bringing a big. Finally got one. He's probably the best big outside of AD, obviously, who they've brought in general, probably since the title team. Like maybe Dwight Howard, but I think this Walker Kessler is probably a better player than Dwight Howard was. So that's saying a lot. But they bring in Walker Kessler. That's a great addition at center. I think he'll, provide rebounding, rim protection. He'll be that lob threat. He showed flashes of being able to shoot the three, so maybe he's also a stretch five. I think he'll be a great additive to the team. They signed Quentin Grimes to a 4-year, $60 million deal, and I like the deal in the sense that, like, him coming in, if you lose Smart, like, it sounds like he's going to come in and serve as, like, your, main point of attack defender. I think he's a better last season he wasn't, but I think he's a better shooter and, like, play finisher than Smart. Like, he has more, like, off the dribble pop. But I don't think he's a better defender. He's smaller. Like, the thing with Smart that made him Smart is a more, like, stocky player. He can guard up. Grimes is more slender, in my opinion. So, he fills into the starting lineup. I think you went down a little bit athletically in the sense that, like, you're not athletic, your physical profile. He's just a lot smaller. He's a little more athletic, I'd say, than Smart, and younger, a little more durable, but interesting move. And then they also signed Sandro. I'm not going to try and butcher his last name, but he's, he played for Toronto. He's a pretty good, play most of his minutes at center, but he's a pretty good stretch five, come in, be a stretch four, the solid defender. Solid defender. So, okay move. 4 years, 52 million. I'm not sure if I mentioned that. And then you have Colin Sexton, who they signed on a 2-year, $19 million deal, gave him a player option. But Colin Sexton is a player I really like. I think he's a good shooter. He can create his own shot, good off the dribble. He's really fast, and he's never been a great defender, but I think he has the tools and the athleticism to be a pretty good point of attack defender. And it seems like that's what they were going for instead of going for that forward mold of like Herb Jones, Andrew Wiggins, guys that can be your point of attack defenders. They went for smaller guards, and I like the Colin Sexton move. Like, I think he's not the shooter that Luke Kennard was, but like I said, provides more off dribble pop. I think it makes your bench better. But the thing that I've been trying to wrap my mind around is, like, yes, the Lakers made all these moves and brought in these 4 players, but you lost LeBron for nothing. You lost Rui for nothing. You lost Marcus Smart for nothing. You lost Luke Kennard for nothing. Kennard is a guy that you traded for, and yes, you only traded Duncan Robinson and not Duncan, Gabe Vincent, and I think like a second, maybe it wasn't a lot, but you lost him for nothing. You traded for him. Losing LeBron for nothing, that's a big hit. Losing Rui for nothing, like, you should have traded him if you weren't planning to re-sign him. I don't understand the rationale there. I feel like they made moves. They fielded this roster, and I think the Lakers are going to be a good team next season just because they have Luka Doncic. Like, he's going to win you games. But I think their ceiling has taken a hit. Like, I think last year's team, and I guess we have to wait and see, but I don't think there's a world where you lose LeBron James and you become a better basketball team. That's just for starters. I think, like, he was the one guy who was, like, healthy in the playoffs. Like, it's crazy. You're like, okay, yeah, that's the guy that's the guy that we need to move off on. And I get his age, I get all the concerns, but since LeBron is telling you, like, all the reports are coming out that LeBron is okay with taking a pay cut. He's okay with, like, he just wants to win. It sounds like it was the Lakers who pushed him out. I don't understand, and maybe this is me being naive, but I don't understand why you can't have, like, it can't be Luka's team with LeBron still around. Like, that whole always LeBron's team, always Luka's team. Maybe this is me being naive, but I don't think they get that wrapped up into, like, at the end of the day, LeBron knows that Luka's the number 1 on that team. Maybe where there was some turmoil was him and Austin, LeBron like being like, I don't want to be the third option, but that's something you can figure out. Like, imagine you keep LeBron with this team and then you add Walker Kessler. Okay. Now, like, that's a real additive. And then let's say even if you do still let Rui or Smart, I don't think Smart walks if LeBron's still there. But let's say you do let Smart walk, you bring in Quentin Grimes. Then it makes a little more sense to me because I don't think Sandro is like just this like all-world defender. I don't think he does anything better than LeBron. Like, he might be a better help defender and be a little more attentive because he's younger, but I just don't think that he is a positive in addition. And like it feels like a 1-for-1. You're looking at LeBron as your power forward versus Sandro. Like, LeBron regressed as a shooter this year, but I think this season was kind of an outlier. Like, he had been around 40s for that past 2 years. Like, I think he'll get back up to like 37, 38. I think not having an offseason kind of messed him up. But just very interesting to me. I think Rob Pelinka, like, this was the offseason. They were like, we're going to make moves. And they made moves. But I just expected more. You lost all of your assets to sign Walker Kessler. So you held, like, I just think he completely botched after the championship year with the like LeBron and AD. Like, he completely botched every single, and you got gifted Luka Doncic, but you botched everything. You've botched, like, and I say botched in sense like they brought in guys, but it's just you needed more than this. The thing is, like, I understand you brought in 4 guys, but you lost 4 guys that, like, your 4 almost like in the playoffs. They played the most minutes. Like, you lost 3 starters. Like, I don't know. And if you look at it like 1-for-1, like, okay, Walker Kessler, Quentin Grimes, Sandra, and Colin Sexton versus LeBron, Rui, Smart, Kennard. Like, it just, I'm not seeing it. I'm gonna be honest. And I'm glad this is not a team that like I said, have to root for anymore. So that is, my stance on the Lakers, and that's their offseason moves thus far. But very disappointed. Don't think they should have let LeBron walk. I think that's probably the best co-star. Well, that is the best co-star one that Luka's ever had in his career thus far. And also, you're banking a lot on Austin improving, which I think he will, for the record. You're banking a lot on Austin and Luka carrying the load. And I guess we will see how things transpire. But, yeah, I think the team is definitely different. That's all I'll say on that. Now, just a couple moves real quick before we get out of here. Marcus Smart goes to the Houston Rockets for 2 years, $13 million deal. I like the deal in the sense that he's replacing Josh Okogie, it sounds like. I think he does everything better than Josh Okogie, and they're both injury prone. And Smart also improved as a shooter this season. Maybe that was because of the looks he was getting from LeBron and Luka. But I like this move for the Rockets. I think he can come in and, let's say Fred VanVleet goes down, like, Smart he's played point guard before. Like, you get a little bit more ball handling. I think the Rockets should have tried to over-index a little more on offense and shot creation. So I think he handles the shot creation part. Well, ball handling, I guess. He's not a great shooter, but he can get his own shot. He can create in the posts. But I just think you needed more spacing with, Şengün and Amen and just having that out there. So, yeah, just a good deal for the Raptors. Not the Raptors. The Rockets, all in all. But just moving ahead, we got 2 more deals that I wanted to cover a bit. So just the Suns getting Luke Kennard, Lakers free agent again, like 2 years, $13 million. I just think the Suns are stockpiling, good role players, one for depth, but also I think they want to keep stockpiling, and eventually, they'll accumulate enough assets to where they can make a splashier deal if they're gonna, maintain Devin Booker. But I also think this sets them up to where if they ever decide to pivot from Devin Booker, you can get a ton of assets. Like, you have all these role players you can move that, will get you seconds, first, swaps, things like that. And if not, you just have a team with a lot of depth, and that wins you games. So I think they're going to be a good regular season team, and excited to see what the Suns look like next season. And then rounding out, you have the Sixers stealing Dean Wade from the Cleveland Cavaliers on a 4-year, $39 million deal. Again, nice pickup, more depth, which is something the Sixers have been lacking. And I think he'll be a pretty good fit there. But thank you all so much for tuning into the Peer Review Podcast. That's all I have for today. Let me know your thoughts. Where does LeBron end up? Do you think the Lakers had a successful offseason? Have any of these other moves moved you at all? let me know. But this is the peer review signing off.